Well, hello and welcome to day 3 of our Lent video reflections. Yesterday we were thinking about giving and about the effect that giving can have upon those who give. And we said, look, one of the key things that happens at a deep level is when we give, when we actively choose to do without, then we are making ourselves materially like those who don't have a choice in doing without, if that makes sense. So people who are maybe in hard times or in need, that people in those circumstances, they don't have a choice, they don't have enough. And so when we do without something, then we're taking one step toward materially being more like that, and it's not because not having things is in and of itself a holy or good thing, but what good it does do us is that it lets us stand in solidarity, to walk in someone else's shoes. And so when we choose to do without or to live with a little less, that in and of itself is spiritually and mentally and emotionally really healthy for us, because what it does is it grounds us in something like the experience of what other people go through, and it gives us more grounds for compassion for other people who are in that position. Now, the ironic thing about that, about me teaching that yesterday, was that I had already, in that video, only day 2 into these videos, I had already forgotten to keep up the good habits that I had begun in video 1, and one of those was to share with you guys just an item a day that I was putting in this back bag for the Orkney Salvation Army, an item of clothing, and I totally forgot to share with you guys yesterday, so I'll show you what I put in yesterday after the video stopped rolling and I remembered to do it. I put in a pair of black gloves because, you know, living in Orkney, although we're coming into spring, that doesn't really mean much in terms of the level of wind, so hopefully someone will get good use out of that pair of gloves. And in my trusty cardboard box for the food bank, I ended up putting in a little pack of instant rice, which I've only just realised now says Stand Against Hunger for UK Families, so that's nice and relevant. Yeah, so that was yesterday, and today is a new day, so I need to add a third item into each of these. So I've decided to revert back to what I did in day number 1 and put in another tin. Chicken soup, so again, cold weather coming our way, so hopefully someone will get use out of that. And then my item of clothing for today, day 3, is one of my trusty flat caps. This is in fact the first ever flat cap that I bought when I started to wear flat caps. So yeah, hopefully whoever ends up with this will not be offended it was on my sweaty head, but up until then it was nice and clean. So hopefully someone will enjoy that. So there we go, so that's me being seen in some small way to practice what I preached yesterday. Finally, but yeah, so giving, yeah, we want to continue just with a really brief thought on that now. Giving obviously has a good impact upon other people because it helps us materially provide for people. Now, these habits that we're picking up, and I hope you're joining in with me in that, or forming some other good giving habit yourself, but these things are just small things and really a drop in the ocean, but you're better with a drop in the ocean than not, and actually we do ourselves good and we do the other person good because we are, like I say, standing in solidarity with people who don't have enough. But more than that, we are physically meeting someone's needs, even if it's just in a small way, even if it's just that drop in the ocean. We are meeting something, we're taking one step toward helping someone meet needs that they couldn't meet otherwise. And so yes, that does them obvious material good. It also does them spiritual good because, like I say, we're standing in solidarity. We are not legitimising that person, they're legitimate anyway, but we're helping that person retain a sense of dignity and of well-being. And so that is good for us because we are physical people, right? Like, we are not just brains on a stick, as one writer has said. We think, sure, and we believe, and what we think and believe, that affects what it is that we do. But also, it's the other way around. Good habits shape and form us. And specifically, the habit of giving is a good thing for us to pursue and for us to do, because it reflects something of who we really are. Jesus in one of the Gospels, in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 6, verse 45, he says, "The good person out of the good treasure of the heart produces good, and the evil person out of evil treasure produces evil." Now, we'll just stop there. Just because you don't feel like giving one day, or you don't quite keep up good habits, doesn't mean that you're an evil person. But what he goes on to say is, "For it is out of the abundance of the heart that the mouth speaks." And so when we give out of a place of giving. Does that make sense? So it's out of the abundance of the heart that the mouth speaks. So it doesn't mean that just because you haven't given in a while, or you maybe don't get the opportunity to do as much good as you'd like to do, doesn't mean that you're a bad person. But what we do is we reflect our inner person when we give. So another way this crops up in the Bible is in a letter that the Apostle Paul, or St. Paul, some people call him. He wrote this letter to a bunch of people called the Philippians, and he was talking to them in this letter, in part of this letter, about how much he loves them. And so this is Philippians 1 verse 8. He says, God can testify how I long for all of you with the affection of Christ Jesus, or with the compassion of Christ Jesus. But actually, the Greek, which is the original language this was written in, the Greek word here, it actually means the innards or the guts. I long for you with the guts of Christ Jesus. And actually, an old sort of Middle English version from 500 years ago, the King James Version, translation of the Bible, it, in rather archaic language, translates this as, "I long for you with the bowels of Christ Jesus," which is quite something. But in the ancient world, the innards, the guts, were thought to reflect our innermost self, our innermost desires. And so Paul's saying here, I love you with my very insides, my deepest inner person. And Psalm 42 verses 1 and 2 says, "As a deer longs for flowing streams, so my soul longs for you, O God. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God." And in Matthew 5, in a famous passage known as the Beatitudes, Jesus says that blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are the poor in spirit. And so that means physically poor, but also means spiritually poor. So we long, we love from a very physical place. It's not just in our heart, in a metaphysical sense. It's not just our head where our longings reside, but actually what we choose to do and the habits we are in reflect what our priorities actually are to us. So that when we give to someone, we are helping them retain a sense of dignity, that they matter. And also we're showing what really matters to us. So let's maybe just chew on that over this Lenten time. What is actually in your inner self? What are the guts of who you are? One translation of another part of the Bible, Romans 12, and one of the verses in that chapter, I forget which, is translated in a modern translation as love from the centre of who you are. And when we give, we love from the centre of who we are. So I just want to encourage you, if you're in the habit of doing that this Lent. Bless you. Bye.